but there's so many different ways that you can volunteer and be able to do that in a very safe way and respecting that safe distance. So I'm going to start the questions off now. And the one is, how do you define stewardship and what does it mean to you? And we can popcorn style if you guys find that better. You can put your hand up, or I can start picking on people, whatever everybody's comfortable with.
I think Erin has her hand up.
I'll go first. Stewardship to me means taking care of the land. And it's important to me, especially as I've grown older and reconnected with my Métis identity, that it is really important to care for the land rather than kind of giving into like a colonial capitalist mindset that I was raised in, just kind of looking at the land as just actually not even understanding it as a part of me, but just kind of forgetting that it's even there, if that makes sense. So stewardship to me means reconnecting with that and doing what I need to do to protect it, because I feel that not everyone has had the same awakening that I've like had the privilege to, and they're still caught up in this mindset and they're, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I can go off of that because that's very similar to what I was going to say, Erin. Yeah, to me, stewardship is looking after the land, and I often think of it as like leave somewhere better than when you found it. And a lot of what I've done is invasive species removal, and so that's a big thing to me, is that these invasive species have come in, and if we're not actively removing them, then they're just taking over native environments. And so that's a big part of stewardship to me, is trying to undo some of that damage that settler colonialism has done to the environment. Yeah.
Thank you both, Erin and Ava, for sharing that. And does anybody else want to add in to that at all?
Yeah, I feel like I probably would have answered pretty much the same as, sorry, is it Eva or Eva?
It's Eva, but I respond to any variation.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I definitely got a lot more into invasive species removal in the last year, I would say. And it got kind of like started out as something that I just thought was actually like fun and satisfying to do. So yeah, to me, that kind of stewardship is like sort of managing our presence here on the land, and like specifically with invasive species, like you said, it's totally like a colonial thing. Like it's like an act of decolonization, removing those species. So to me, yeah, I agree. It's kind of like a reversing the process of our presence here on the land.
That's a great point, Reed and Eva, talking about invasive species. And in the last year, I've seen so many people getting involved in invasive species, BC particularly. And I never thought about it in that way. I never thought that it is a way of removing colonialism on our land. And I think that was a really beautiful point. And that draws in stewardship really well. So thank you for sharing.
One more point about that is that sometimes invasive species can take over environments where medicine is grown. So First Nations in BC, some of their important sites are not only affected by colonialism and development and deforestation, but also invasive species as well is another one that can just completely change the environment, so they can't even live there. So it is, I'm very biased, but I think it's very important.
Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add to this question? I can say it again, is how do you define stewardship and what does it mean to you?
I can add a little bit, I guess. I hope it's right, but I feel like it's kind of maintaining the natural state of the land the way it is. Like talking of the plants, like the medicine that we take it from the land, instead of like kind of going for the, short-term economical benefit of it to destroy the land kind of thing. That's what it means for me.
Another thing I could add is, like, when you take something from the land, always put a piece of it back. Because as in Native culture, you always gift your first drum, you always gift your first art. Like, if you catch a fish, you generally always put it back or cut a piece from it and take it down after you've cooked it. So basically giving back to the land.
That's where your tobacco comes in too, right? You can get tobacco as thank you. So.
An elder once told me that if you don't have anything physically with you that you can give back to the land, you could also give a strain of your hair from the back, some of your smaller wispies, and donate that back to the land. And yeah, so interesting.
If no one else has anything else to add, I just wanted to add one more point, if that's okay. I also forgot to mention that it's also important to me as well to raise my son with these values as well, because like I remember, for some reason, it's a memory that's been coming up a lot, is going for a hike with my friend's family. And as I was walking, I was picking off the leaves from the tree, like not really thinking, just kind of being, a kid and picking off the leaves. And my friend's parent turned to me and asked me why I was doing that and said that I shouldn't be picking leaves off the trees. And for some reason that has stuck with me my whole life, just that I didn't even realize why I was doing that. And it meant a lot to me that they pointed it out. And I hope that I can teach my son to do the same and to respect everything, even if we do have to hunt or if we have to trap or when I get him his first pair of moccasins, I'm going to explain about the rabbit fur, but we're still going to respect all animals that we see. So.
Thank you for sharing that. I definitely can resonate with that. I have 2 kids of my own, and one of my great uncles had mentioned to me when we were doing some rock skipping and we were going at it excessively, but one of the things he was saying was that every time you're throwing rocks, you're wrecking that river, and that over time will then potentially switch the flow. And he's like, obviously it'll take a long time, but if everybody continues to do that, think about what damage that could do. And I was like, oh, he's like, I want you to honor the water and play with it, and you can throw like one rock when you go, but don't sit there all day throwing it back in because of the damage that it could cause. So yeah. I'm going to move in to the next question, and it's a larger question, so I'm going to read it out. If you need me to repeat it, definitely ask. So what kinds of stewardship practices did you engage in? What Métis specific environmental needs were you made aware of? And what did you plan to do? What were you able to do with COVID restrictions? What were the biggest obstacles and challenges you may have faced? Or what did you hope to learn from the experience? So it's a larger question, and I can break it down if anybody would like me to, or you can touch on key parts that really stuck out to you in that question.
We can also just discuss about the things that you had done, or even what you were planning on doing, or just kind of touching on some of the things that you had done or planning on doing or tried to do.
Sorry, just to put in, Maggie, are you comfortable if I put that into the chat?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay.
I can go through those questions. I also, on the side of my screen, have the document of questions open, so I can use that. So what kind of stewardship practices did I engage in? Mostly it was invasive species removal with the Invasive Species Council of BC. I'm also one of their volunteers, and so I found out of more opportunities through them and different emails that they had sent out of different things that were happening. I was able to connect with Friends of Uplands Park, which is in Victoria in Oak Bay. And so I was able to volunteer with them. And in the spring, well, winter, spring, we've been doing carpet burrweed, and we'll move on to ivy and broom as well as the weather gets better and we can do more. Métis specific environmental needs that I was made aware of. I attended I can't remember what the workshops were called, but it was a 3-part workshop in January. Sarah, do you remember what that was? Climate change or preparedness?
Yeah, in November?
No, this is the ones in January. I wasn't able to attend. Yes, with the Fraser Basin.
Yeah. The climate change workshops with the Fraser Basin Committee.
Yeah, and so during then, it was nice to hear from elders or just other Métis people about things that they had seen in the past 10, 20 years, environmental changes and different weather patterns and the destruction that has, as well as like salmon and stuff. So it was really great to, even though during COVID times, to be included in Zoom things like that and actually get to talk to people about topics related to climate change or stewardship and whatnot. Next question. What did I plan to do? More volunteering with different organizations. Really, I was lucky that Friends of Uplands Park was able to, in some capacity, continue, not really in the fall, but since January, some more in-person volunteering, and did some online volunteering as well, and learning a lot about different invasive species and management planning and whatnot. But it would have been nice to, to physically be in more places and with other people. Like I haven't met anyone that's on this call in person or any of the other My Eco Action participants in person, but been able to connect virtually with some people. So that has been nice as well. Yeah, so I think COVID, like the social distancing has been a big obstacle. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. I've been talking for a bit.
I can go next. Yeah, again, invasive species removal was big for me too. I think the main stewardship practice I engaged in was through the Okanagan and Similkameen Invasive Species Society. So what I was able to do is they needed someone to go and monitor certain beaches for any sign of Asian clams. So I would kind of like once or twice a month drive down to a beach in the Soyuz and just sort of like walk up and down the beach scanning for clams in the water. Didn't find any, luckily, but they're apparently like very destructive and like can clog up a lot of pipes and just be a big annoying problem. That was kind of like the main me actually getting out through an organization, like on the land and doing anything really. A lot of my time was spent sort of like listening to podcasts and like online seminars. And I think that was the main thing, obviously due to COVID, that you can't really go and meet in person. So I was able to explore a little bit more online and find some alternatives, which was great. But yeah, I think what I would have ideally liked is if COVID didn't exist and we were able to meet in groups and get outside and really do anything. I would have liked that. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me, is sort of just coming to terms with trying to find ways to engage from home. It was more of like a gathering knowledge exercises, I guess, instead of like actively getting out there. But I don't know, I still learned a lot and it was great. And in terms of Métis specific environmental needs, honestly, I wasn't made aware of a whole lot. I'll keep thinking about that, but yeah, I think just because of the nature of COVID times, and I wasn't really able to find a ton of experiences to engage with, Métis specific experiences, I mean. But maybe I'll think of something. Maybe I forgot something.
Thank you for sharing, Reed. Appreciate that. If anybody else would like to go, Erin?
Sure, I'll go. So the type of practices and volunteer opportunities that I took part in, at first I didn't do any Métis specific things. I actually volunteered for, I think it's called Plastic Oceans Canada. And that was a really kind of fun opportunity. I basically just worked on the website for them because I used to be a graphic designer, so it worked. And I made some connections that way. But what I found from this program that has really been impactful for me is that it's really changed the way I think about like volunteerism and community. So ever since I signed up for this program, I started noticing all of these things that popping up that I would have never paid attention to before. Like I signed up for workshops with the Pacific Peoples Partnership in Victoria as well. I joined this committee as well, and now I'm going to be on the board for that. So it's working with Indigenous people all through the South Pacific. And I was also invited by them to speak at one of their recent events, and I've never really spoken before. And I told a story about my Métis ancestors. So that was really cool. And it was just a really defining moment for me. And it really meant a lot. And it was recorded, so I was able to send it to my dad. And I think it meant a lot to my dad as well, because he is Métis and he grew up knowing he was Métis, and, you know, his dad was a traditional Métis person, but of course, due to various things likely linked to colonization and residential schools, he wasn't super connected with it. So I bought him his first sash, and we've kind of been going through this together, and I think it meant a lot to see that story shared. So that was really cool. And yeah, I basically, also another really awesome thing that's come from this is the connections I've made. Like I have so many Instagram friends now that we always like hype each other up. We're always commenting on each other's like cultural posts, and it's just so cool to see. I have so many friends now that are Métis from all across BC, and that's really awesome. And without sounding too cheesy, like honestly, this program has completely changed the course of my life, because from taking this volunteer opportunity to connect with the land and connect with Métis culture, I ended up switching my career trajectory from like anthropology to climate change. And I'm hoping to tie in a lot of like Indigenous lifeways with it. So that's been really awesome. And with the COVID restrictions, I actually joined and was going to start attending our monthly meetings in the Cowichan Valley. So I got to go to one before COVID hit. So I literally went to one and it was cool. And then I unfortunately couldn't go, but that's still been cool. I've still been in touch with everyone there. So that's been really great. And like Reed said, listening to podcasts has been really big for me as well. So I feel like this opportunity has been a lot about learning for me, surprisingly, more than me actually like physically doing. But I think it's all going to pay off, because now I'm ready to do, now that I've learned so much, if that makes sense.
Thank you for sharing, Erin, and I'm really happy to hear how much this program has impacted your life, and I hope that we can talk even after and really share your experience with other youth in the future if we're able to continue funding this program, and kind of maybe there's an opportunity for mentorship a piece after this if anybody's interested. And that's not just extended to Erin, but to the rest of you, that if there's an interest to kind of show other youth how you've gone through this, especially with the COVID kind of throwing a wrench in things. I feel like there's still a perspective there that we all are now gaining awareness of, is how volunteering is so important and how we can adapt to this virtual world and still be successful in our work. So I hold my hands up to each and every one of you in the work that you guys are continuing to do. And it's heartwarming to see that despite COVID, you guys are pushing forward. So as I slightly tear up, I'm like, oh, youth.
I, in a very ironic way, COVID, of course, has been really, really hard, like just physically, mentally, emotionally. But at the same time, I truly don't really think I would have even been this successful in this program if it weren't for COVID, because it's really made me strengthen those community relationships that I've had. Whereas before, I think I may have taken it for granted, or I would have been too busy with other things. But I don't know, it's just kind of really made me connect to it more. And like, I feel so strongly connected now to my Métis identity. And I don't know, honestly, if it would have been like that without COVID, in a very ironic way.
Yeah, sorry.
If I might say something.
Yeah.
I see an elder every week to go through some of the stuff that I'm dealing with at work, and she said something very similar to me. She said the world just kept on going fast, and everybody knew that they had to slow down, but they wouldn't, so the Creator made them.
Yeah, I resonate with that too.
Mind blown right there. That is so true. And yeah, it's incredible to hear you say that, because often I communicate with people and hear that they're struggling due to that lack of in-person connection with their culture and community. So what I'm hearing from you is that you've created a community within this program, but also it helped you to then expand that further. And yeah, that's amazing. Would anybody else, sorry, like that?
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt the flow. You might hear my dog snoring in the background, old snoring girl. But I also just wanted to say, on speaking on COVID, we all had plans. We all had plans, including myself, to volunteer with different organizations. And I remember sitting down and thinking, how are we going to do this if now COVID's coming? We can't even connect our youth with elders. And that was our hope, is to go on walks with elders and be physically on the land with them. But that became illegal really fast. And so we needed to protect our elders. And then I just got creative and thought, we can volunteer and add stewardship in our day every single day, whether it's picking up some pieces of litter while you're going on a walk, organizing a beach cleanup with friends, doing invasive land, or picking up invasive species and finding invasive species around your parks and near you. So taking nature photography, maybe, coaxing other people and other friends to do the same. So that was something that really, it's not all about the grand gestures, I feel, in life. And so I felt like I needed to say that as well, because I've seen so many creative ways from all of you, and even the youth who were unable to attend today, volunteering and bringing stewardship into their everyday. So I had to make that point. Yes.
What you were just saying, it was making me think about something that while I've been doing this program, I'm thinking a lot about is like good intentions. And even though I might not be able to physically get out and do stuff, as I was feeling bad that I wasn't getting like the quota for hours and everything like that, I was actively trying and thinking about it. And it was like Erin was talking about, like changing the way that I was thinking about things in my relationship, like being part of a group, a program, making some sort of commitment. I was more actively seeking out ways, learning opportunities or physical physically doing things. So I really liked that, and wasn't something that I was expecting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, I think that my experience with this has been more symbolic, actually. Like, now that you say that, like, it's been about changing the way that I think about the world. And yeah, and honestly, that's just something that I would have never had if it weren't for this. Like, so yeah, thank you for that point, Eva. That's basically nails it on the head.
Would anybody else like to add into any of the conversation right now, or I can move on to the next question? Just gonna awkwardly sit here and stare at you guys. Okay, I'll move on to the next question. I will also be posting this in the chat, just so if you guys don't have it already in front of you, you can kind of see and go as you'd like. So the next question is, if you could do this program again, knowing COVID would impact your ability to volunteer and connect with elders, what might you do differently? What do you recommend for future participants of this program, or advice you may provide
them? One thing that I would have really liked to see, and that I would hope for even outside of this program, is maybe some sort of like monthly might be too much, but throughout the year are like storytelling opportunities or teachings from elders that we can just tune in through Zoom. I think that's one thing that I'm craving, is like hearing traditional stories. And whenever because like I said, this connecting with my Métis heritage is relatively new to me. So whenever I do have the opportunity to hear from elders, it's such a powerful experience, and I just feel like I don't have it enough. And I also don't even know where to go for those connections when I am wanting them. So that is one thing that I would like to see.
I echo that as well. Yeah.
I'm writing it down. So it might not be directly connected to this, but I heard you both. So.
Or another thing that like would be good to do is like have like times where like just the group does Zooms and they all just get to know each other.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Like if the group could like just kind of hang out on Zoom for a little while, do like beading or ask questions maybe, or anything like that. That would be really, really cool. And I also think having maybe like a Facebook group or something else. I know we have the WhatsApp, but it would also be cool if we had something that was more like media friendly that we could share things with. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think something I might have done differently, knowing what COVID was going to be like, is like sort of earlier on, like make more of an effort to reach out online. I felt like I was experiencing like almost like COVID denial, sort of, or like not knowing how long it's going to last. So I would still kind of like hold off for maybe there's going to be some more in-person meetups, or maybe there's going to be more outdoor opportunities. So yeah, looking back on it, I think starting sooner to sort of get my feelers out there for what's available online or what groups I could join. Because I found when I kind of got into that more, I was like sort of really feeling like the COVID exhaustion and just sort of feeling like less motivated as time went on. So I think that would have been a bit more effective sooner.
Yeah, that's a good point. I remember thinking like, oh, it'll be gone in 2 weeks. Like I very clearly remember thinking that, because my son's daycare was closed and we were all certain it would be like 2 weeks long. So yeah.
I really appreciate you guys self-reflecting on that and acknowledging that we were all feeling it as well too, that hey, we think this is just gonna, it's a phase, it'll be over, we're all following that let's make pizza, let's make bread kind of mentality. And now that we see the reality of it, looking back, we're like, I should have made more bread, but got out there and gave it out.
Amen, sister. And it's we even saw that influx on our end in terms of operations when we had our first couple of Zoom calls and Zoom events. We had over, what was it, one time over 70 people showing up and families, and they would all have their dinner on the table, and it was just like, it was amazing. The turnout was wonderful. I think everyone was excited to connect in the beginning, and Zoom was so exciting. Flash forward a couple of months, everyone's just exhausted, and we're experiencing now Zoom fatigue, and getting individuals to come out and spend their evening on Zoom people are experiencing burnout, and so we've kind of had to teeter on both ends of that, is acknowledging the burnout but also wanting to connect groups as well.
Yeah, I think just to add to what I was saying, it's kind of like good and bad. Like, I feel like there are some opportunities that I explored, even not not specifically environmental opportunities, that I sort of, it was sort of like I was in the mindset of like looking to see what is out there, like what are some Métis opportunities I can connect with, and that sort of led to exploring other things. And I don't know if those would have been that available to me if COVID wasn't happening. I feel like they'd be more in person, and if they're at a distance or like in another city, I wouldn't be able to go there. So yeah, I mean, there's one, like I took like a sash weaving course, and I just started. There's a guy named Joshua who's like doing Machif lessons right now. He's I think he might be in Edmonton, and I just feel like these opportunities might not have happened if COVID wasn't happening. So I don't know, it's good and bad.
Side note, can I have the information for that, for the Metis lessons? Because I've been looking and looking and I can't find anything. So
yeah, totally. Maybe I'll post a link here. There's a Facebook group, Kelowna Métis Association. It's run through that. I can try and get a link, but you'll have to request to join the group. You don't have to live in Kelowna, I don't think.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And he just started it like a couple weeks ago. I think this week was his second lesson, and he's doing it for 6 weeks.
Wow, awesome. That's exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Just some insider knowledge is we're doing a lot of work within Machif, so you will see stuff start to roll out. We are behind, unfortunately, compared to some of the other provinces, but I can assure you, you will see a lot of stuff happening. One of my project is one of them, called In the Words of Our Elders. That was going to be in-person classes, but due to COVID-19, we're doing recordings, and we'll be posting it on the learnmachif.com website and really upgrading and revamping the whole brand of that page. So stay tuned and watch for that.
Thank you. That's very exciting.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add on it? Eva, is it Eva? Eva?
Eva.
Screwed up, Eva. I saw you had
Oh,
had
good.
it off before, so just checking in.
Yeah, I found the same as well, as just not knowing when COVID was going to end, and just kind of like that hoping and waiting a bit too. And then kind of getting to the point where it's like, okay, nothing's changing, so gotta kind of do something the best that I can. But I also, Sarah, what you were saying about Zoom and burnout, it was making me think of how I signed up for lots of different webinars, a lot related to the environment and climate change. And then I would just forget that I'd signed up, and then I would get an email the day after of like, sorry, you couldn't make it. And it's like, oh my goodness, I wish if I'd known. But and some do send, an email an hour before or the day before, but I was finding that without like needing to physically be at a place, I was forgetting these different webinars and things that I had signed up for. But also, as like Reed was talking about, on the positive side, like a year ago, I would not have had those kind of opportunities of things that I've been transitioned to be online. So yeah.
Or another thing that would be like cool to add in is like do like groups or classes where there's elders that do like Zoom or something, where they like teach us their language.
Yeah, there's a couple things that will be coming to do with the language piece. But if you guys would have told me a year ago we'd be transforming all of our programs to virtual, I would have told you we're crazy and it's not going to work. So I really feel that we're truly blessed in a sense in this opportunity to adapt to this, because we're tapping into a demographic of youth that were feeling excluded from the conversation because they couldn't come to an event or had an anxieties about going to various events, but virtually was a lot more comfortable for people. And I can say that going from, you know, a small community to a big community can be very overwhelming, as well as some of the travel. So we're definitely blessed in a sense. I'm not going to completely say COVID's a good thing, but there are pieces of it that the creator, I'm like, I see you. I see what you're trying to tell me here. So listen, they're talking. I don't want to say if it's a he or her or anything else. It's their, yeah. But if anybody else wants to add into that question, I'm going to give it a second before I move on to the next one. So the next question is, what do you think are the benefits and impacts of taking care of the land and community engagement? And I'm going to post this in the chat.
For me personally, it's been a big sense of fulfillment, and like really just developing my own sense of identity as well. And it's kind of paired really nicely with my studies in school, since I'm basically studying like identity for 4 years straight. But having this program really just kind of rounded it out. So now I had my own experience with identity. And so I think that was a big impact for me. And learning to care for the land in a traditional way outside of colonialism was really powerful as well. It really just opened my eyes to things that I hadn't realized before, and has turned out to actually be my biggest passion, is now caring for the land. So it's been really great that way.
Fatima has raised her hand.
Just about to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just mentioning maybe like I think the experience was good. And also the knowledge that we get, sometimes we cannot get those from textbook because textbooks like center certain perspective. So to like hear stories from people who have been actually impacted and they have first-hand experience was really meaningful. Also, it allowed me to kind of find out more about them and like kind of watch documentaries or like documentaries and like how things are been done, and like kind of connecting it and finding similarities between my own culture back home was also interesting.
Do you want to expand on that, Fatima? The connections that you felt back home?
Yeah, sure. Because in my country, Afghanistan is like a diverse country, but my ethnicity is Hazara. So like I have studied there for 12 years, but there's not a specific topic that talks about my people. And the history is really polished and like kind of wrote by people who have like prosecuted and kind of committed genocide against my people. So like the history is kind of similar because even the kings, it was a king system, but like we know other side of history. If I hear from my people, it's really different. They're like, oh, that person kind of came to that place, took over the land, and people kind of enslaved them. But in history, they're kind of glorified. They're like, oh, that person was such a good man, kind of thing. So it kind of really helped me to even be more connected to Indigenous people and kind of understand that okay, like I have some similar, like it's, although it's not the same in the same level, but there's some sort of connection with them in a way.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So yeah, I think to me there's like the obvious benefits of more like environmental conservation and preservation, and just making an effort to like undo decades and decades of abuse to the land, basically. So I think just any amount of effort you can do is going to be beneficial to the earth. But then I also think that more personal benefits and more cultural is like just getting out onto the land and performing any acts of stewardship helps to strengthen just your relationship with the land in general, and or even just create a relationship. And so you can kind of just start to have a dialogue with yourself and the land and existing on it and being a part of it. And I think that can sort of tie into a lot of community and cultural feelings as well. And just for me, I don't know, I just really like being outside and on the land. So I find personal benefits of just feeling good whenever I get out there. So it can be as simple as that as well.
Sorry, Eva, just building on what Reed was saying real quick, that just stuck out in my mind because, yeah, I think a big part of it is that it could also be geared towards people who don't have a relationship with the land yet, rather than like strengthening one. I think that that could be a great way to be inclusive, is to also explain that this could create a relationship that people don't yet have.
Yeah, definitely. So some benefits that I've seen is, you know, the environmental, I'm talking specifically about invasive species, but actively taking away invasive species that are like Scotch broom not only creates a canopy where other plants can't grow, but it changes the chemicals in the soil, and it makes the environment very very toxic and not habitable to native species. So actually removing them, you know, there's a benefit to the native environment. There's also impacts to people that visit, if it's a park or wherever, such as like seeing camas. Camas is super beautiful and much nicer to look at than Scotch broom, and they often like similar environments like Garry Oak Meadows, and it's also a traditional food source, so that's another benefit. And on a personal benefit, I often find that invasive species removal feels very meditative, and I can kind of let go of whatever else I'm doing or thinking about. And every Sunday I go and I remove invasive species, and no matter what kind of assignment I have that's due early in the week, I have that commitment and I go, and I'm not really thinking about anything else. And so I really enjoy that part of it, and just being able to, you know, like physically connect to the land, like Reed was saying, and, you know, get your hands dirty and get like down on the ground, and gives you a better appreciation. And also because I've done, being able to see all the different seasons in one particular area and see how it changes is really neat as well, and I really like that. And so just like building that connection with places and land. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of benefits, and, you know, can be benefit to the environment, to other people, to yourself, and yeah, and also community, talking to people. So at Uplands Park, there's a lot of people that just are walking by that don't know about invasive species, that volunteers can just talk to and engage people with. These are invasive species that we're moving. This is a really sensitive environment, and kind of give people the why they should care, just to kind of, you know, put it out there a bit more in public knowledge. Yeah.
If I could just say, it's really wonderful to hear that you use the word relationship with the outside, with our trees, with our water, everything that's outside, because that's in the saying, we are related, we are all related, all my relations. It means every tree, every rock, the water, we're all related to each other. We're related to people around the world, but we do have a relationship with trees and water and rocks that maybe other cultures might not have so much, because they are part of us. The rocks are our grandfathers, right? Those are the rocks have been here forever, and they have our stories in them. So when you use that word relationship, it's exactly the right word. And that the more you're outside, the more you'll learn about our relationship with them and our relatives, which are the outside. Great word to use.
Thank you.
I'm just going to give it a second in case anybody else has anything they'd like to say, and then I'll move on to the next question.
I gotta say, man, I miss being on the island and pulling broom. I really liked that, and I can't do that here in the Okanagan.
Well, you should let me know, like if you're back, because in the summer I work for BC Parks, and there's a lot of broom that needs to be removed in
everywhere.
BC Parks.
Yeah, I feel like once I sort of learned more about it, like I would see it everywhere I went, and it was like, it's freaky. Like, it creeps me out, the sight of it now, just knowing how destructive it is. And like, yeah, especially when it's blooming and it's just yellow everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I went for a walk today and there was broom everywhere. And in my head, I was doing the whole, okay, so if I was going to manage this area, this is how I'd have to zone it. This is the priority area. And then I think, okay, I need 100 volunteers and I need 100 days. And then maybe we'll be able to do something. So
Yeah.
There's a lot of it.
Totally.
You pull that one and it made a difference, right? That one makes a difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Focus on the one.
That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. So what kinds of alternative activities would you propose for Métis people to connect culturally and politically when land is inaccessible? How might you or they practice stewardship in urban spaces?
One thing that just jumped into my mind was like balcony gardens or community gardens. I've seen and heard of a lot of people that are living in residential areas or in condos or whatnot that haven't been able to, but being able to take care of a plant or a little vegetable patch outside on their balcony that has brought them like more connection to their food sources or to taking care of plants, as well as just online resources too. There's so much out there, which it can be hard to find, but yeah.
You're totally speaking my language there, because I'm addicted to plants, as you know, most of my team knows. I love plants, and my daughter has been getting into the habit of how she's going to plan out the spring and when we're going to plant things. And at 7 years old, and she's already like, Mom, when are we doing this? We got to do this and this. And I'm like, okay, relax, we're going to get it done. But I ended up getting one of those smart gardens. So she has one, I have one, and yeah, it's been a useful little tool. Keep my spice cabinet full. Erin, did you have anything you want to say? Your mic's off.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of approaching it from a different perspective, but I think that it might be good to have like different opportunities for people. Specifically, what's coming up in my mind is more of like a media project. Because one thing that I've noticed, and this doesn't really have anything to do with the land, but I'm just kind of thinking maybe they could be connected, is there are virtually no documentaries or there's not a lot of information on Métis culture, like specifically because I've done a lot of research through school for it, and I could not find any Métis documentaries or television shows or anything like that. So I think if we were to bring media into it, it might also kind of create a really unique perspective. Maybe if there was a way to have people from all across the province or something collaborate on some sort of like media project, or all take part in like a documentary or something that in the end there's like a tangible product that people could watch. And it could be something that educates people, and a way to kind of bring in people that may not have that relationship with the land yet, but maybe they're more like technologically interested in that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Aaron,
Along,
sorry,
along those, sorry.
Yeah.
Along those lines, there is a book out there actually. It's called The Mothers Are Northwest, and it is a Métis book.
Yeah.
It's really good. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. And then I got into reading it. I think I spent like, stayed up to 4 a.m. one night reading the whole book.
Yeah, I have that one. It is so, so good. And that is one of the ones that I specifically sourced, like, because I was trying to write about Louis Riel, but just to break it up, I was like, oh, I wish we had a documentary I could watch, and there was nothing. So, but there are definitely some really great books out there for sure. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a really good book. Aaron, so to touch on what you were saying, so some insider knowledge, because Brittany's got all the knowledge, they're actually doing what's called May TV with MNBC. A lot of it is going to be mostly around politics and things like that, but there's going to be pieces on rights and like lots of other things. They'll be traveling across the province once travel restrictions are lifted, and really getting grassroots perspectives on a lot of things. But the reason why I'm telling you about this is they were asking me to connect youth to them to really speak about their personal stories. There's a potential of being featured on May TV, but it doesn't necessarily mean your interview with that team will end up on there. But if anybody on this call is interested about talking about what your passions are, definitely connect with me, and I will connect you with our communications team. And some of this stuff could be published on that TV show or TV series. And some of it should be around how they can take action within their communities and these exact issues that you guys are sharing. And also, I would like to bring up that my BC committee is creating subcommittees of youth in the various departments and ministries within MNBC. Their first priorities are environmental protection. So once that starts getting advertised, if you're interested, connect with Sarah and she can forward over my information if you're interested in taking part in that subcommittee. It's brand new, so these things are being developed, but they're doing it in health, education, and employment and training. So, and also environmental protection. So,
that sounds really awesome. Sign me up for all of it.
Well, definitely. I'll put my email in the chat and you guys can connect with me directly, or if you prefer, you can connect me through Sarah. So yeah.
That sounds great. I just wanted to add one more thought to just kind of like complete what I was trying to say, is that I got that idea from a documentary that a friend of mine is creating. She's Inuit, and there's a lot of environmental issues happening up north right now. So they're creating a documentary on, I believe it might be oil drilling possibly up there. So that's what kind of made me think about it, that it would be cool for Métis to also get involved in a project like that. Yeah.
Would anybody else like to add to that question?
I'm just thinking like the how to practice stewardship in urban spaces, and I guess it kind of depends on how urban you're talking, but I think there's small ways you can sort of incorporate day-to-day stuff. Like I think someone mentioned earlier, like even if it's as simple as like picking up garbage or like picking up cans or anything, whether that just be like on the street or in a park, even small acts like that, I think, are really awesome to start practicing. Or again, if you are able to learn or educate yourself more about invasives or species that damage the land, you can kind of just find areas of the city that might have those. I know when I was living in Victoria, like broom is pretty much everywhere. So many parks, you can find it. I know Victoria's kind of, it's urban, but there's lots of parks. So I don't know if it is a great example. But things like that, where they only take like seconds of your time to do, but they can add up. And then alternative activities, I think like what we're doing right now is really awesome, where just in any capacity, getting together and talking to other Métis people is really meaningful. Whether that be talking about environmental issues or cultural, political, whatever, I think it just goes a long way to get together and share ideas. So I think that's something I would have liked to have participated more in over the course of this time. So I think making an effort to make that happen more, I'd be happy to see. Yeah. Oh, and also to add, I have a class starting soon, so I'm going to need to go. But just wanted to say Marseille to Lorelei, Sarah, Brittany, everybody else. It was really nice to share and hear all of your perspectives as well. It's fun.
Thank
Hi,
you.
thank you, Reed.
Have a good class. Make sure you stay awake.
Thank you. I'll try.
I think it's safe to say I can move on to the next question. I'm going to post it in the chat. So how did this program deepen your understanding of who Métis people are, what Métis inclusive reconciliation looks like, and how you can contribute to reconciliation through land-based volunteering, as I learn to read right now?
I can go. I really enjoyed the 3-part workshop webinars with the Fraser Basin Council and Métis Nation of BC. And I really enjoyed like the workshop part of those as well, where I got to talk to other people. And I'm not sure if surprised is the right word, but there was a lot of emotion about climate change that I didn't fully appreciate that a lot of other people feel. And so to see that, and that a lot of people are thinking about this, and that Métis people are thinking about this, that was a bit of an eye-opener to me. It's not that I didn't think that these were feelings that people were having, but I just hadn't really seen them. And so I thought that was really great. And I really enjoyed those workshops and being able to hear from speakers and elders and other community members, and just having conversations about climate change. And so I thought that was really great. And I'm not sure if I would have, signed up for those workshops if I hadn't been a part of this program and had been more thinking towards this. And as I've kind of mentioned before with the invasive species, and it can be a form of, in my opinion, reconciliation, decolonizing, removing invasive species, and as well as you can also replant native species depending on the environment that you're in, and permissions and whatnot, but reintroducing native species to the area that have been there, and using oral history and First Nations knowledge to know what species should be there. And so really just being a participant in that and taking direction from First Nations of what species should be there, and taking away the ones that should not. And so, as I've said, I'm very biased because I do a lot of invasive species removal, but to me, that's really important.
English ivy. Pull it out anytime you see it. Nasty stuff.
This program for me was able to deepen my understanding of who Métis people are through the connections that I've made. It's opened up opportunities for me to feel like I'm welcome at, because my first experience interacting with the Métis community was that one meeting I went to before COVID. And they were all very, very shocked to see me. I think I was the youngest one there by like 30 years or so. And I promised I was going to bring all my Métis friends. And then of course, COVID happened, but yeah, so I think that's how this has deepened my understanding of who Métis people are. And yeah, and I think I agree with what Eva was saying too, that it's like doing things like protecting the land from invasive species and everything is a great way to contribute to reconciliation. And I've also become interested in supporting other Indigenous groups as well in their fight to protect the land. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Erin. We have the opportunity to be active allies and to support First Nations in their inherent right to the land that we are on here in BC. Yeah, and there's a lot of current issues that are happening. Yeah.
I'm going to leave it open if anybody else has anything that they would like to add before I pass it back over to Lorelai.
I will add something. I think it's really important because like just being on the call right now tonight, this was like so meaningful to hear from people and the experience and the connection they made because of the program. It's really, yeah, powerful. Also, it made me to go through kind of learn more about First Nation in general. Like I was watching a YouTube series, it's called like First Nation Forward. And that was a really good YouTube channel to kind of get to know more about the people and their relationship with the land, and how like it really amazes me how like every bit of thing that are in the land is kind of useful. They use it, and like the way they do it is really interesting for me and amazing, and like yeah, I think that's how I would say.
Thank you. Before I pass the feather to Lorelai, I think it's a good time to have a little bit of a break. We can have a little bathroom break. So let's meet here again at 7:30. Does that work? Okay.
Good.
Oh, I couldn't hear you. Sorry, Lorelai.
At what time? Sorry.
7:30.
Okay, I'm going to go fast because that's too. So you guys got your boxes though, right?
Yes.
Oh, great, good.
Hmm.
It's like our starter box. It's your smudge kit starter box. So it's just got a little miniature of everything in it. But so you're gonna have to try to find your big bowl. Go searching on the beach.
Yeah, I love it. It's so cute, and yeah, it'll be really fun to go to the beach with my son. Maybe I'll go this weekend or something. And yeah, he's only 3, but he's like, every month we get like a little gift from the Metis Family Connections, and so he'll be like, "Is that from the Metis?" Like, and yeah, he doesn't fully understand, but it's so cute.
I also get from that for my daughter is under that for the next 1 more year, but I'm loving it. I'm not sure if you know about Imagination Library. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so cool.
Yeah. I signed my niece and nephew up. I have twin niece and nephews that are going to be turning 2, and they're so excited to get these books that they're ripping pages out.
Well, yeah, sounds about right.
Lorelai, I have a question.
Sure.
I was wondering about the ribbon.
That's what we're gonna do right now.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna do your ribbons out and your feather. I'll walk you through that a little bit. And then when we're done, hopefully you'll take a minute and light your smudge and try to remember what we were talking about and clear your mind off so you have a good sleep tonight. Let's wait a couple more minutes.
Yeah. I just want to share my appreciation for everything that you guys have shared so far tonight, because it really gives me a vision for what the next year of the Ministry of Youth is going to look like and how we develop our programs. Our years begin on April 1st, so there will be like a whole new fresh year for us to start on. And I'm definitely listening and taking into consideration what you guys are saying. So I hold my hands up to each and every one of you for what you've shared with us today. So thank you so much. I'm going to pass the feather, Lorelai, over to you.
Sure, thank you. I'll get it. There we go.
Oh.
We're so nerdy. Okay. So everybody has a small feather, right? Oh, and just speaking a couple of seconds to what you were just speaking about, Brittany, I have at one of my schools, we're having a new school is being built. Burnaby North, they're building a new school. So we're having an Indigenous art installation. And we have an elder that's coming to do some work with us, and we are doing some drumming with him also. So we cut some branches to make our drumsticks. And when we cut the branches, he turned to the bottom of the branch, and he said, we put our thumbs in some ink and put them on a page, and then looked at the bottom of the branch, and he held it up between each other, and he said, "See, you're related." It's like, it looks so much like a thumbprint. When you cut a log and you see the circles and you look at a person's print, it is very similar. So it just connects us again, that we're all connected. So thought I'd share that because it popped into my head when you were talking. So everybody's got a feather with them, right? Or hopefully everybody has one that was sent in the box. And some of the lessons that feathers have taught me and people have taught me about feathers is, this is how a feather should look. This is how we should all be. It's all kind of clear and standing up and doing what it's supposed to do, right? But some days, this is not what we look like. Like, I drive to work and someone cut me off. And I get to work and my boss yells at me. And then I forgot my lunch. And then I don't know what else happens. But by the end of the day, this is what my feather looks like. It's not so good, right? And often when you're doing all the work that you're doing, which is really good work, this is what we look like, because we give so much away, we forget about ourselves. So feathers teach us that if you take a little bit of time and you're gentle with yourself, and you always use water. I have water here, and water helps clear us. So even in the shower, water outside, water makes us better. So you wipe off you put a little bit of water on you and clean yourself off, and all of a sudden you're back to where you're supposed to be to start another day. So feathers are really good lessons. They really teach us a lot of things. Those ribbons that I have, that I put in your box, there's a white one. If you tie the white one onto your ribbon, that's so that you remember your mind is really important. So I'll put that down and I'll tie that on. White is for the direction of the north when we think about the medicine wheel.
and it helps us think about our mind. So everything to do with our brain. Lots of people spend a lot of time going to school and making sure that they learn a lot of things, and that's what the white is to remind us, that it's the direction of the north, and that our brain is really important. Spend some time on that, because it'll get you a long way. Then if we moved the next direction, it's yellow, and yellow's over here in the east, and it's to teach us about our spirit, and our spirit's important. So when you think about yourself, try to remember that you have to spend time thinking about your spirit and what feels good, what's helping you fill your bucket, what is it that's helping you be who you can best be. So don't forget about your spirit. You have your head, you have your spirit, then you find the red one and tie the red one on. And the red one is about emotion. And we get emotional sometimes when we're talking about land and stewardship and how our world, what a mess it is sometimes. But it is a beautiful world, right? Our emotions are important to also. So when you're thinking that if things are so bad and they're not going to get better, try to keep that in check. Remember that there's a lot of good in the world. So you put the red on there so you remember that your emotions are important. And the last one is black. And that's for your physical self. So very, very often people forget that one, because they're thinking about their head, and they're thinking about their heart, and they're thinking about stewardship, and but they're not thinking about their body. So you need to drink lots of water. Water is important. You need to eat properly and go for walks, go outside. It'll connect you with things. So your feather has all those different colors, which is our colors of the medicine wheel. Lots of great lessons in the medicine wheel. So try, if you don't know too much about it, start to do a little work on that. Look up medicine wheel, try to find teachings, talk to some elders about it, and just know that in order for you to be healthy and happy, you have to have all those directions and all those things about yourself kind of equal. Because if you spend all your time looking after your emotion and no time looking after your brain, you're kind of going to go ka-thump, ka-thump, ka-thump. Your reel's not going to be very good. It's going to be flat on some sides. So it's important to try to be in balance, teaching you balance with those colors. So that's the last lesson I have, and that you guys are doing amazing work, and be gentle with yourselves, because it's hard work, you know. And I'll share a little story that I shared before we started our session. One of the teachers I work with has a 4-year-old. And he said to his mom, I can't listen about this COVID anymore. I hate the COVID. When I hear that word, it makes me cry. I can't hear about the virus anymore. It's making me cry. And so his mother said to him, well, what do you think we should call it? Because sometimes they're going to have to talk to you about this. What should we call it? And he said, I think we should call it the pepperoni. So now whenever they talk about corona or the virus, it's the pepperoni. So after the pepperoni, we're going to go visit grandma and grandpa. After the pepperoni, we're going to go to Mexico. So I just thought it does make you smile. So any little bit that can bring a little lightness, you got to use it. So use the pepperoni. It's better than the virus. Yeah. And it was very lovely to be here. I feel very honored that I got to listen to your stories, and the things that you're doing is amazing. Young people rock. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorelei. I've learned so much today, and I always learn something when you're teaching and you have such a calm presence. So I really appreciate that you were able to sacrifice your evening and join us today. I also would like to thank each and every one of you who've, again, like I said earlier, I know this is a busy time, and I know that all of you have so many other things going on in your lives, and we really appreciate you coming to this program and being a part of it, and allowing the wheels to be in motion for our nation. So I thank you for that, and keep on doing awesome work. I get, every time I receive an email from someone or I hear stories about from a youth about what they're doing and what they're volunteering, it's been really inspiring for me and in my own personal life. And you've given me all such amazing ideas, and it's so wonderful to be amongst other allies of the environment. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will be in contact again. And I hope all of you have a wonderful evening. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me or Brittany or Lorelei. I will share her email in our WhatsApp group if that's
great. Absolutely.
yeah. Okay.
Questions, questions or
Okay.
get some information about stuff, send me an email. I'll be happy.
Amazing. Okay. And Maggie, I'm not sure if you're okay with this, but I was just wondering if maybe they had any other ideas about questions that come up in the next few days. They can maybe send it to me and I can send it over to you. If yeah, because I'm a processor and maybe some of you as well. So things might percolate in your brain over the next few days. Don't hesitate to let us know.
Lorelei, thank you so much. We're truly blessed to have you a part of our events, and I'm just so thankful for you. So I send my sincere appreciation. I almost table flipped while you were talking because a spider came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Don't cause a scene! Don't cause a scene!" So
in the garage.
I didn't die. I don't know where he is, so. But I'll leave y'all with that tonight to laugh about Brittany freaking out. Could you imagine if I...
I could.
You see me freak about them in the office. I'm like,
oh boy. Well, I won't keep you much any longer. So again, we're here to answer questions. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and I hope everyone has an amazing evening.
thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you, Maggie.
Thank you,
We
Maggie.
appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
Fun. Have a good night.
Have a good
Yeah,
night.
thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Fatima.
Yes.
You get me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
I know.
I have a question, not related to this at all, but I actually don't have a Métis sash, and I was wondering if there's like a gift shop, like a Métis Nation BC, like online
Send
store
me
or
an
something.
email as soon as you can, and I will mail you one.
Oh, cool. Okay, sweet. Thank you, everyone. It was so nice to meet you all and to
Have a
see you
good
again,
night.
Sarah.
Yes, of course. Have a good night. It's great seeing you.
Yeah, bye.